Hello, my friends. For this relatively brief video, you will need this learning activity that I emailed you on the somatic nervous system versus the autonomic nervous system. The screencast you were responsible for completing for today included the last two screencasts of the nervous system that included spinal cord and spinal nerves and the autonomic nervous system. Here are the results from the Muddiest Points Wiki for the spinal cord and spinal nerves screencasts. One student indicated some general muddiness about the entire screencast, and another student questions about spinal nerves, dorsal and ventral rami, and a plexus. I will defer to addressing the learning objective here that's indicated as the Muddiest Points until Wednesday, when I'll be talking and going over the results of the quiz that you had in lab that is currently open, since it focuses on anatomy. So I will address spinal nerves, dorsal and ventral rami, and plexus, but I will do that on Wednesday. Moving on, here are the Muddiest Points results for the autonomic nervous system screencast. And as you can see, quite a few of you indicated that you found that screencast to have some difficult concepts. So I'm going to spend a decent amount of time addressing the content of the autonomic nervous system screencast. The autonomic nervous system is the involuntary motor branch of the peripheral nervous system. It consists of only motor nerves that control smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and glands. Let's contrast that with the somatic motor nervous system, which controls skeletal muscle. So here we are focusing on the motor nerves that control smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands. And then the autonomic nervous system is then divided into two divisions, the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. First, let's contrast the autonomic nervous system with the somatic nervous system. First, let's compare and contrast the somatic and the autonomic nervous systems, as I mentioned. When we look at the motor pathway of the somatic nervous system, it is a one motor neuron pathway. You have your motor neuron cell body located either in the brain or spinal cord. In this example, I say spinal nerve, so this would be in the spinal cord. And then you have a nerve fiber that extends all the way out to the skeletal muscle. So it's a one motor neuron pathway. In the autonomic nervous system, you have a two motor neuron pathway. So you have your motor neuron in the central nervous system, and it has an axon that extends and synapses to a second motor neuron in the peripheral nervous system. Now, this cell body has neighbors, it has other cell bodies, and of course a cluster of cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system is called a ganglion. So we refer to this nerve fiber as the pre-ganglionic axon, and then extending from this second motor neuron we have the postganglionic axon, and it forms a junction with a muscle or gland. So in the somatic we had a one motor neuron pathway from central nervous system to effector. In the autonomic nervous system, we have a two motor neuron pathway from central nervous system to effector, two motor neurons. This information is also shown on this image directly from your book. Here we have the somatic nervous system, one motor neuron pathway from central nervous system to skeletal muscle. Autonomic nervous system, regardless of whether we're talking about the sympathetic or the parasympathetic division, we have a 1-2 motor neuron pathway. 1-2. The only exception is in the sympathetic division when the effector is the adrenal medulla. In that case, we only have a one motor neuron pathway, but that is the only exception to that rule. Otherwise, autonomic nervous system 1-2 motor neuron division. 1-2, 1-2. This should be obvious, but I will state it anyway. The effectors in the somatic nervous system are skeletal muscles, voluntary effectors, and in the autonomic nervous system, your effectors are involuntary. They include smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and glands, of course. Lastly, let's discuss the neurotransmitters of the somatic and autonomic nervous systems. In the somatic nervous system, the neurotransmitter is always acetylcholine, and we abbreviate that ACH. Somatic nervous system, neurotransmitter, always acetylcholine. In the autonomic nervous system, sometimes it's acetylcholine, and sometimes it's norepinephrine. Another name for norepinephrine is noradrenaline. So somatic nervous system, always acetylcholine. Autonomic nervous system, sometimes acetylcholine, sometimes it's norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Now let's pause to complete the first part of the learning activity that I emailed you on the somatic nervous system versus the autonomic nervous system. The directions say that for each description that I provided you, place an S in the blank if the description refers to the somatic nervous system, an A if it refers to the autonomic nervous system, and a B if it refers to both. So take a moment to do that. And you don't have to remember what we just talked about. You can just refer to this table down here because it provides all the information that you need. First question, neurotransmitter is norepinephrine. Is that somatic, autonomic, or both? Second question, cardiac muscle is the effector. Somatic, autonomic, or both? Neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Somatic, autonomic, or both? Glands are effectors. Somatic, autonomic, or both? Have a postganglionic neuron. Somatic, autonomic, or both? And lastly, skeletal muscles. Somatic, autonomic, or both? When we meet Wednesday, I'm going to ask for volunteers in providing the answers to these questions or these descriptions. Now that we have addressed the differences between the autonomic and the somatic nervous system, let's specifically focus on the autonomic nervous system and its two arms or divisions, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic divisions. Now I want you to think of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic as serving the same organs but having opposite effects. For example, you have the throttle and you have the brake of your car. One increases speed, one decreases speed, but they control the same variable. You have an air conditioner and you have a heater at your home. One decreases temperature, one increases temperature. They have opposite effects, but they control the same variables. You can sort of think of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic division in a similar light. They control many of the same variables, but they have opposite effects. They counterbalance one another to keep the human body working smoothly. Let's focus first on the parasympathetic division shown at the bottom of this figure. On the left side of this figure, we are shown the parasympathetic division. Notice that the preganglionic neurons are found in the brainstem and the sacral region of the spinal cord. Also, notice that there are very long preganglionic axons. In some cases, they reach all the way to the effectors themselves. And we have very short postganglionic axons. So long preganglionic axons, short postganglionic axons. Another thing to note is that all nerve fibers of the parasympathetic division produce acetylcholine. All of them. Any nerve fiber that produces acetylcholine we say is cholinergic, right? Cholinergic. So all the fibers of the parasympathetic division are cholinergic fibers. Now that we've talked about the anatomy of the parasympathetic division, let's talk about the physiology or function. I'd like to think of the parasympathetic division as the no worries division. When you are least active, that is when the parasympathetic division is most active. When you're relaxing, you're not contracting a lot of skeletal muscles, at least you're not engaging in any, much in the way of physical activities, your body is going to be focusing on saving your energy, storing your energy for the time that you might need it. So you're going to have maximum blood flow to your digestive system for the digestion and absorption of nutrients so that they can be stored for when you might need them. This is when there's going to be maximum blood flow to your kidneys for elimination of waste products. And this is also potentially the time when one would engage in sex. So this is where you're going to also have maximum or higher blood flow to the genitals. So you can think of the parasympathetic division as the rest and digest division. There's enhanced activities that function during times of rest and recovery, that is when you're not engaged in a high level of activity. Increased smooth muscle activity of the GI tract designed to increase digestion and absorption of nutrients, increased flow to the genitals, increased flow to the your kidneys for elimination of waste products. So remember the parasympathetic division as the D division: digestion, defecation, and diuresis. Diuresis, by the way, is the production of urine. Now for the sympathetic nervous system. So first, when we look at its anatomy, the preganglionic neurons are located in the thoracic spinal cord, thoracic and lumbar spinal cord. Also notice that unlike the parasympathetic division, we have relatively short preganglionic axons and relatively longer postganglionic axons. In the parasympathetic division, the only neurotransmitter was acetylcholine. In the sympathetic division, the neurotransmitters include acetylcholine, but they also include norepinephrine. So in the sympathetic division, we have cholinergic fibers, and we also have what are called adrenergic fibers. Fibers that produce norepinephrine or noradrenaline are referred to as adrenergic fibers. Now, specifically, the preganglionic fibers are your cholinergic fibers. They're the ones that produce acetylcholine. Your postganglionic fibers are adrenergic fibers. In the parasympathetic division, all fibers are cholinergic, all produce acetylcholine. And now the physiology of the sympathetic nervous system. What does it do? The sympathetic division prepares the body for a high level of activity. The epitome of this, or the extreme of this, would be the fight or flight response, right? Your stress response to a stressor. So we have this little animal, this little frog that's trying not to be eaten, right? So blood flow is going to be redirected from the digestive system, from the urinary system, from the genitals to the muscles, right? So it can fight off of this animal. It can fight off this stork, whatever's trying to eat it. So again, this is how your body directs activity to your skeletal muscles so you can engage in a high level of physical activity. Now, to understand how the sympathetic nervous system works, let's think about what's required to support physical activity and the production of ATP. Cells, of course, in order to produce ATP, require oxygen and glucose. So you're going to have maximum blood flow to your skeletal muscles. You're going to have dilation of bronchial tubes and the respiratory tubes or passages. You're going to have an increase in heart rate, all meant to carry more oxygen and substances that can be used to produce ATP, like glucose, to the cells of your skeletal muscles. So the sympathetic nervous system increases heart rate, increases the force of the contraction of the heart, causes vasodilation, that is the increase in the size of blood vessels supplying blood to the cardiac and skeletal muscles. All of this is designed to support an increased level of activity by the skeletal muscles of the body. Along with this comes a decrease in blood flow to the gastrointestinal tract, urinary tract, as well as the genitals. Let me be clear, this is not stopping blood flow to these other organs. It is simply decreasing blood flow to these organs with preferential attention to the skeletal muscles to support an increased level of activity, physical activity by the body. In addition to promote increased delivery of oxygen to the blood, there's a dilation of bronchial tubes and other respiratory passageways. Pupils typically dilate in order to that someone can see danger or whatever challenge that they're dealing with. Sympathetic nervous system is also responsible for orgasm. Orgasm associated with that is contraction, rapid contraction of muscles. So the parasympathetic division is responsible for arousal, which requires increased blood flow to the genitals, but the actual orgasm is actually the sympathetic nervous system's job. So remember the E division according to your book: exercise, excitement, embarrassment, emergency. So with that, what I'd like for you to do is complete the second portion of that learning activity, sympathetic nervous system versus parasympathetic nervous system. Here you are given various descriptions and you are asked to identify these descriptions as relating to the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, or both. What we will do on Wednesday is I'll put you into groups, have you share your results with one another, and then we'll report out together. So please have this done before you come to the live session on Wednesday. Now that we've completed discussing the remaining screencast for the nervous system, Let's move on to Chapter 16, the Muscular System. The 3 screencasts that you were to complete included Introduction to Muscles, Microscopic Anatomy of Skeletal Muscle Fibers, and the Motor Unit. Before we jump into the muscular system, I thought I would share a fun fact about this unique organ system. Believe it or not, over 40% of your body weight is skeletal muscle. These are artificial cadavers, but if we were looking at actual cadavers, they'd look very much like what you see here. If you remove the skin and subcutaneous fat, much of what you would see is actually skeletal muscle, particularly if you look at the upper and lower appendages. They consist, after the skin and subcutaneous fat are removed, of mainly muscle and bones, and then everything else sort of supports the muscles and bones. Those would be the nerves and the blood vessels. So it may be a surprise, but a huge percentage of your body is actually skeletal muscle. Recall that the muscular system is responsible for generating body heat and for maintaining your normal core body temperature. This occurs because your skeletal muscles are constantly contracting. Even when you are at rest and when you are asleep, your skeletal muscles are partially contracting. As they contract, they use energy, and a good percentage of this energy is lost as heat, which helps maintain your body temperature. Looking at the results from the Muddiest Points Wiki, quite a number of you noted define extensibility and excitability as your muddiest points from Introduction to Muscles. This was actually a little surprising. That is a learning objective that doesn't get a lot of attention from students typically, but quite a few of you noted as your muddiest points. So let's talk a little bit about those 2 properties of muscles. Extensibility is the ability to lengthen without tearing, and all muscle tissue have this property. Think about what's involved in general movements of the synovial joints. They're moved by skeletal muscles. For example, the process of curling involves straightening the elbow. That process causes the muscles of the arm to lengthen, and then conversely they contract to then bend the elbow. Extensibility is the property that allows that muscle or the muscles of the arm to lengthen as the elbow is straightened. And this would be the case with muscles involved in chewing. As you open your mouth or depress your mandible, also would be the case as you extend or straighten your knee. The muscles associated with moving that joint would stretch as you extended your knee or straightened your knee. Skeletal muscles also have a property called excitability. In short, they can be stimulated to contract. Skeletal muscles specifically are stimulated to contract by motor neurons. Motor neurons in the spinal cord or the central nervous system send action potentials through their axons to synapses called neuromuscular junctions between the axon terminals of the motor neurons and the skeletal muscle fibers. Those axons cause the release of acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is the stimulus that causes skeletal muscle fibers to contract or shorten. So to summarize, the property of extensibility allows muscle tissue to stretch without tearing or being damaged, And excitability is the property that muscle tissue possesses, which allows it to detect and respond to a stimulus, which results in contraction. Few students identified learning objectives from the remaining screencasts on the muscular system as their muddiest points. However, I do want to do a little lecturing on the sliding filament theory, which this last learning objective relates to. And I also want you to complete a learning activity on describing in detail how an action potential produces a motor neuron, which leads to contraction of skeletal muscle fibers. So we'll go over these screencasts when we meet in our live session on Wednesday. Before we end, I want to remind you that your lab quiz on neuron anatomy and physiology, spinal cord and spinal nerves, and human reflex physiology is currently open and closes Tuesday, October 19th at midnight. That's tomorrow. Your quiz for mastery on Chapter 7, the nervous system, opens at approximately 2:15 today, and it will remain open until Wednesday, October 20th at midnight. And for Wednesday, do not forget that your next lab number 7, which is the second lab on the nervous system, anatomy of the brain and cranial nerves specifically, should be completed. And the remaining 3 screencasts on Chapter 6, muscles, should be completed as well. So I will see you on Wednesday for our live session.